Hello. Today we're going to talk about how to take this photo and turn it into something a little bit more dramatic using Affinity Photo. Okay, first, once you have your photo loaded up into Affinity Photo, the first thing we want to do is really work on the contrast. So there's a lot of different ways to add contrast in Affinity Photo. You can add curves, you can use different sliders, but one of the easiest things to do is to make a copy of the original photo. Alright, so just right click on it, go to duplicate, and once you have this highlighted and you have it duplicated, just go over here to blend modes. You're going to change it from normal to multiply. Okay, and that's really going to separate the lights from the darks. It's going to make the lights lighter, the darks darker. It adds a lot of contrast, and it's really easy to do. And you can do this in curves, but this is one of the easiest ways to do it. So the next thing we would want to do is we want to add a levels adjustment just to bring it out a little bit more. So we're going to go to adjustments, levels, okay, and we're not going to do much here. We're going to add under the black level about 3%. And then under the white levels, we're going to add about, or we're going to move it to about 91%. It's subjective. Do it to wherever you want to do it, but this is how I like to edit my photos. So now that we've got the contrast and everything going on here, it's already looking a lot better. I mean, just look at the difference between this to that. And we've literally only done two little things to it. So you could say this is done if this is what you like. I like to pull out a lot more colors. And one of the things that you can do, even though it's a JPEG, this was taken with a cell phone. So even though it's a JPEG, and you'll hear everybody say, oh, you can't white balance JPEGs. You can a little bit. So we're going to go up here to white balance, and we're going to bring this up a little bit. Okay, to about 15%, and what you'll see is that it really starts to bring up these sky colors. It adds a little bit of warmth to it, makes it look a lot better. I'm not done with this photo. I like to bring out those colors even more, so what I'll do is I will add a vibrance and a saturation adjustment. So go back to adjustments. First we'll start with a vibrance. Okay, and that's right here. And Affinity Photo 1.7, it has a, quite a bit more flexibility on the vibrance adjustments, and there's another slider beneath it that's been added. So we're going to bring this up to about 75% on the vibrance, and under the saturation that's beneath it, we're going to bring this up to about 35%. You can move the sliders, you can type it in. It's easier to type it in sometimes, but as you can see, what that's done between the white balance and the vibrance is added a lot of sky colors. You might want to add even more, so you could go up to HSL and we could pump this up to say 25%, see what that does. Okay, so that's even add a little bit more colors to the shadows, to the sky. This sky is pumped full of color now, and if you don't like that much color, you can always bring it down. It's subjective. Everybody has their different tastes. I like a lot of colors, and it will really pop, especially when you post it on social media. People notice the colors first. So you could call this done. I'm not quite done. I want to bring out a little bit more texture out of the sky. So an easy way to do that, especially on sunset photos and sky pictures, is to add a little bit of clarity. And so we're going to go to live filters, and we're going to go to clarity. Now this is going to get added as a child later, so you will need to drag it back out if it does. And you'll want to bring this up to, yeah, we'll say about 50%. Close that. And if you look up here in the clouds, you'll see a lot of texture that wasn't there. So turn that off, turn it back on, and it really just kind of accentuates the clouds a little bit, adds a little bit of what they call local contrast. So I like to sharpen my photos, especially if I'm gonna share them on social media. So there's two ways you can do that. One of the easiest ways is just go up to live filters, and you can either do an unsharp mask, right? So bring it up just a little bit, bring up the factor a little bit. Again, you'll need to drag this out for it to see any difference, and you can do that. So that's one way to sharpen it. Problem is when you do that, it does add a lot of noise, so you'll definitely want to add a denoise filter. I believe there's a setting I can go in here and change that so it doesn't keep adding as a child layer. But so you can add some denoise to it, and that will get rid of a lot of noise. There's another way of sharpening. If you don't want to do the unsharp mask, we'll just turn that off, and what we'll do is we'll add a high pass filter to it, and again drag that out. So when you do a high pass filter, it just turns the screen gray, and it's like, what's the point of this? Well, what you have to do is you have to bring up the radius, okay? And you'll see once you start bringing it up, you'll start to see edges, and what it's going to do is it's going to look for those edges, and it will only sharpen those. So kind of find somewhere, something a little bit low. You don't want to go too crazy with it. But then you need to go to blend mode, and you need to set that to hard light. And once you do that, it will sharpen just the edges. Now the advantages of doing it that way is it doesn't sharpen the noise, so it makes it a lot cleaner. But the other way works okay too. It's just there's different ways of doing it. So if we take all these and we group them together, okay, and way you would do that is you'd highlight them all and then just hit Control G. We can turn this off and on and see the difference. So if we turn that off, there's the original photo. Turn it on, and that's the after. Now it only took just a few minutes to do that, and I didn't do much. I really just added a few sliders. I didn't do anything too technical, and most of it's to taste. Again, you may not want as much color, you may want more. It's completely up to you. It's your photos. You can adjust them how you like. I like a lot of color, and when people are scrolling through social media, the first thing they see is color, so it really makes it stand out. But again, it's art is subjective, so you can do it any way you'd like. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and hope you've learned something. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Again, this is using Affinity Photo. Now there are a lot of other options out there. There's Affinity Photo, there's GIMP, and there's a few other ones that are free. I don't have Lightroom or Photoshop. I kind of go with the lesser expensive alternatives. I don't like the subscription model, and honestly these days there's such good software that I don't think you need it. We'll look at those at another date though. So anyway, have fun, take care.